it into, quote, sativa and indica, but
Mm.
all the indica strains are grown in California, and some very entrepreneurial hippies went in the late 60s to Afghanistan and Pakistan, found these wonderful, wonderful marijuana origins, plants
Wow.
that had been grown for centuries and centuries in those mountains. And the reason they went there is they understood that the terroir, the mountains, the climate was so similar to Northern California and California in general, that when they brought the seed back from those areas, they just thrived in California. Whereas the Mexican weed tends to be more sativa orientated, more tropical, um, more temperate orientated. So, what California dialed in was the ultimate outdoor geographical place in the US to grow phenomenal weed. Having said
Hmm.
that, New England growers who were much more clandestine about it did find strains from South America, Central America, Mexico that did well here. Maybe didn't have the strength and punch of the California weed. Maybe not the quite the flavor, but definitely kick ass. I mean, I can attest to that.
Hmm.
All right. But it is more challenging to grow in the Northeast and New England than it is to grow out West, for sure.
Let's talk a bit about this buzzword of organic growing as well, because this has become something that people are searching for as consumers of cannabis now. It's not only that they want certain strains and that they want them to have certain effects and certain levels of THC and CBD. Folks now want something that is sustainably grown and love, love, love the word organic. When you're talking about organic farming, what exactly does it mean you're doing differently with that cannabis plant?
Well, I've only been an organic farmer for the better part of 40 years. So, I drank that Kool-Aid, that organic Kool-Aid a long time ago. And basically, the buzzword too is regenerative. And regenerative describes organic farming, which is a life into death metamorphic process of recycling. So all organic farming is based on the metamorphosis of recycling, taking what was food and waste of organic matter and turning it into fine compost and fertility. So you're completing the
Mm.
cycles of existence. That's all organic farming is. Whereas synthetic farming is based on taking the nutrients out of the organic system, putting them in vitamin or chemicalized water soluble form so that those nutrients are immediately available to the roots. Organic farming feeds the soil the many trillions of microbes, bacteria, fungals that live in the soil that then digest, assimilate, and excrete nutrition through biology.
Do you think that it makes for a better bud to do either organic or synthetic?
Yes, for the same reasons that I think eating a fine, organically grown tomato or anything else that's well done organically. Let me give you a kind of example that I can make personal. When we eat, we have a tongue, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, intestines. There are tens of billions of microbes that are specific to every part of the human body that are part of that digestion and assimilation. And ultimately, nutrition winds up in your blood, nourishing every cell in your body. So, by
Hmm.
analogy, if for whatever reason you and I were not able to eat, but we were being kept alive, we would perhaps have food in a liquid form injected into our veins, and we could be kept alive. And maybe there's better quality systems of doing that. Who knows? I don't know. But it basically you're bypassing the whole biological system when you're being fed intravenously, your nutrition going directly in your blood. That's how I think of synthetic nutrition. It's a lot like hydroponics. And by the way, that's what hydroponics is your nutrition is available not microbially, but through the medium of water. and water soluble nutrition. So this was a long-winded answer of saying I'm true blue. I believe that organic systems win.
I love to smoke some organic weed, but to me, as a pretty novice home grower, it seems like a lot more work and a lot more research. The hydroponic method that you were talking about, it seems like the easy way into growing weed at home.
Yes, it for the novice. Yeah, just add water and take your tang out of the bag, and bingo, you've just engineered something, or you've taken the easy way out. To be a good organic farmer is to be a kind of alchemist, and it takes time and experience like anything else in life. You can go from a cook to a chef, but it takes quite a bit of time. I would say the same rules apply to being a good organic farmer because it's a much more complex system of growing.
The other thing that I've heard about to be careful of when you're learning to grow is heavy metals in your soil. What does that mean when you're trying to grow organically? Are you able to get rid of those heavy metals that naturally occur in soil?
Yes, unless your soil for some reason has been contaminated by heavy metals, it's way overblown. There
Hmm.
are, if you would, there are micronutrients and microminerals that could be interpreted in a sense as like cobalt, like molybdenum. They're somewhere between metal and rock and mineral, but they are part of the catalytic system of NPK. And this is where it gets very complex with soil chemistry and soil biology. But if those micronutrient metals are beyond a certain critical threshold, yes, they're poisonous, but your soil's pretty screwed up if that's happening. So this
Right.
heavy metal thing really applies to indoor grows, where if you are applying something out of the bag synthetically, so to speak, maybe one of those heavy metals like a molybdenum could be beyond a threshold that could become poisonous. So it's really much more applicable to the indoor grow than it is to an outdoor organic grow in an outdoor soil grown.
Now, looking forward towards what you think the future of cannabis farming looks like, do you think that because of climate change and these kinds of issues that we're already seeing, that folks are going to move away from the sun grown cannabis and towards the indoor grows more?
Geez, I am after this season. Um, Partially joking, but you can grow indoors in the soil. I mean, a quarter of our crop is grown in greenhouses because we can get harvest with auto crops earlier. We've got one house that's a light depth house that merely is a curtain that sort of fakes the plants into believing the season is ending, so we can bring on flowers earlier in there. But from a climate point of view, as per your question, I think a lot more is creatively going to be done under membranes. And I was reluctant to use the word plastic because I'm sure looking forward to something that is a hemp-based plastic, a true biodigestible plastic, than a petroplastic that hangs around for hundreds and hundreds of years and winds up in our water and our oceans. I mean, we've got to get away from plastic, but I do see a lot more growing one way or another being done with membranes over the beds and or greenhouses because of weather. We're living in the future. It's totally unpredictable. 22 inches of rain within 1 month is unprecedented, and it seems to be happening more and more.
Well, here's hoping that your grows can continue outdoors because I haven't tasted of them yet, and I really want to try some of your outdoor grows. You're one of the most legendary farmers I've ever met, and I have got to inhale some of your weed one of these days. So at least from this harvest, uh, put some aside for me.
I sure will. Yeah. Well, we're going to get something out of this season, and it's going to be good.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. I believe it will not be a wasted season, even if it was a difficult farming season. And I'm excited to see what farmers like you who have a real eye towards organic and healthy farming do in the future as the world continues to change. I want to see how we adapt. And that's the great thing about humans. We always figure out a way to adapt. So I have great faith that we'll continue to have great weed.
Well, part of adapting is regeneration, and regeneration is learning. And we're going to have to learn to grow outdoors in very difficult conditions. And one of the ways to do that is to build super resilient organic soil systems. So I think there's a lot of hope for our species in every way, economically, to become part of the ecosystem that we are, and to grow our food, fiber, and fuel that reflects the facts of life.
Make sure you go check out differentleaf.com for all the issues of our delightful magazine, and make sure you're following us on social media at differentleaf and at different_leaf, and I'm at Brit the British. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to us wherever you're listening. And a huge thank you to our guest this week, Ted Dobson of Equinox Farms. Thanks as always to our producer, Andrea Maraskin, and thanks to Homebody for the music.